Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
The US has threatened sanctions against Ghana should they pass the Anti-LGBTQ bill into law. And the proprietor of this bill, Sam George, says, bring it on. Ghana existed independently before America came and became our friends. And even if our relationship with America gets severed, Ghana will still be here. Our life does not begin and end with our association with America. Hello there, how are you doing? Welcome to another episode of our conversations. My name is Ondiro Oganga. I'm a business journalist by profession and a digital content creator. I love coming on here, having a conversation with you guys about Black people, Africans, our empowerment, and how we can rise up and take our rightful place at the global stage. Connect with me on social media at Ondiro Oganga, or you can come over to my channel at New Dawn Africa channel, where I profile Africa through people, politics, and culture. Let's get directly into today's video. Ghana passed the anti-LGBTQ law, and the US is not very happy. They've actually said that this bill, if it's passed into law, will have chilling effects on travel and business. Now, travel, because Ghana did a campaign called the Year of Return in 2019, and it encouraged many people, particularly from the diaspora, to return back to the motherland and see the continent. And also, just in general, Americans make a huge part of tourists that come to the African continent. And so anytime they place a travel advisory, it always affects tourism, which in turn affects all the other sectors. In terms of economy, sanctions is what he was talking about. When Uganda passed their anti-LGBTQ law, the US slapped them with sanctions. You know, they imposed economic sanctions on them. The World Bank froze all the funding going to Uganda. The US revoked visas for the speaker and a couple members of parliament, who at the time said, it's okay, we don't even care about America, we'll go to other places. But it's just to show you that we own you and you have to stay in line. But Sam George is saying, no, you don't. You don't own us, actually. You literally do not own us. You know, he goes ahead to say that these countries have existed. You know, business has always run. These countries will not crumble just because they're not doing business with America. I don't know if that makes sense. And Sam George is one of those people who he comes off as very educated, very exposed. Though he was trying to minimize the impact. But I think also if you're going, either you stand for something or you stand for nothing, yeah? You cannot say you're passing a bill today, then when you're threatened with economic sanctions, you change your mind and you're running back to the bill. And so now we're in a situation where Ghana could literally be looking at economic sanctions. Let me put this into context for you. Ghana is in the process of restructuring its debt with different creditors. 2021, 2022, very difficult years for Ghana. You know, inflation rose up to a high of 54%. The currency lost nearly 60% of its value to the dollar. Debt to GDP rose to about 80%. Half of the revenue that they were collecting in the country was going into paying debt. And at some point, the economy crashed because this wasn't sustainable. The cost of goods and services doubled, tripled. When I was living in Ghana, fuel was 4 cities. Now it's about 13 cities, you know. The dollar was 5, 6, 7. Now it's 13. That just tells you how bad things were. And so they had to default on their debt because they could not afford to pay. And when you default, then you've put yourself in a very complicated situation, because now you're at the mercy of France, of China, of US, of all these other guys, because they're the ones who dictate how the debt is going to be restructured. And so while they were in the process of restructuring their debt, they needed money. So they went to the IMF. And truth be told, I don't even think Ghana are very at the IMF, because I know Kenya went to the IMF after Ghana. Kenya got their bailout. Ghana was still struggling to get their bailout from the IMF. But then again, the economy was not at a great place. Eventually, they got a $3 billion bailout package from the IMF. And also the World Bank has earmarked about $900 million for economic recovery. This should just tell you everything that is at stake. Do you understand what is at stake? They need to finish restructuring their debt, because if they don't do that, if they don't reach an agreement with their creditors, then it means that IMF cannot give them money. If IMF cannot give them money, then it means government functions will shut down, because most of that money, again, is not going into development. It's going into recurrent expenditure, paying salaries, running critical sectors such as education, healthcare, transport. Because again, they're not raising enough money internally to be able to fund the things that they actually need to fund. And then the World Bank also is going to give them some more money to help with economic recovery. This just means that the government can then cushion the people against more taxes, because they have some form of revenue that can go into the basics that they need to do. If this bill passes and becomes law, all that is going to change. Let that sink in. If this bill becomes a law, all that is going to change. America alone gave Ghana $221 million in donor funding. And it's very important to also know that critical sectors, healthcare, education, infrastructure, most of them are funded by donor funding. So there's so much on the line here. But then again, Sam George says, still, you will not twist this.
Well, Ghana is a proud African nation, first country in the sub-Saharan Africa to gain independence and lead the light for the rest of Africa. I expect the leaders of our country, the president of our country, to stand shoulder high and tell the American people, you either do business with us on our terms or you can walk. American businesses that operate in Ghana are not in Ghana because of LGBTQ. They're in Ghana because they make a profit. If you're an American business working in Ghana, you turn $100 million in profit every year. If you think that because we are protecting our cultural values and saying no to LGBTQ, you want to lose $100 million in profit, pack up and go. Another company will come into Ghana and do business. Ghana is a fertile ground for business. Look, Africa must begin to assert our rights. We're not puppets and stooges of the West. Look at Uganda. Uganda's economy is not as big as Ghana's economy, but per the Economist Intelligence Unit, the EIU, the 2024 report, Uganda is going to have the 6th fastest growing economy in Africa in 2024. And it's just the sheer hypocrisy of America and the West. Doing business with Saudi Arabia and doing business with Qatar. Qatar spent 22 billion US dollars hosting the World Cup in 2022. 18 billion out of those 22 billion went to American and Western businesses. Qatar buys over $1 billion of military hardware every year from America. The punishment for homosexuality in Qatar is death. Nigeria passed a same-sex marriage bill as far back as 2015. In fact, your bill is more punitive than Ghana's bill. In Nigeria, the punishment in your law for same-sex marriage is 14 years imprisonment. The maximum in Ghana's law is just 3 years. Has Nigeria's economy collapsed? Has Uganda's economy collapsed? We need to begin to stand. The American economy would not run and the Western economies would not run without African raw material. I think it's time we begin to look at adding value to our own raw material. Why should Ghanaian cocoa and Nigerian cocoa be traded on the New York Stock Exchange and not on the Ghanaian Stock Exchange and Nigerian Stock Exchange? If we begin to assert ourselves, these guys will know that they have to deal with us on equal terms. They're not doing us a favor. We're doing them a favor. The best doctors in the United States medical system are Ghanaians and Nigerians. The best economists on Wall Street are Ghanaians and Nigerians. They're not better than us. We sit in the same classroom with them and beat them every day. Academically, intellectually, we're better than them. But it's simply because we've not asserted our rights as Africans, because we want to go for cheap hand-me-downs. And I keep repeating, the IMF and the World Bank are banks. Banks operate by giving loans and making profit of the interest of those loans. So they should not threaten us. I mean, a bank should not be threatening the customer and saying, I won't give you a loan if you don't do what I want. If I don't come to you for a loan, you don't turn a profit. And so our economies are what run those multinational banks. And until we begin to assert ourselves and begin to trade more amongst ourselves, Ghana should begin to buy more rice from Nigeria, and Nigeria should begin to buy more salt from Ghana. We don't need to be going to the West for this. That's our problem as Africa.
Well, that's all we had for you in this episode of our conversation. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.